Teen Championship Wrestling is a cherished, fleeting memory of my adolescence. It really was as simple as, hey, we wrestle all the time in the yard, why aren't we running our own company and channel? And 14-year-old me was off and running. The roster for TCW in its inception was minuscule at best, but it has a charm to it for me. You've got the ringleader, Zach. Zach was essentially the self-appointed cornerstone of the organization. He edited and published all the videos and promotions, and he decided all the finishes, and he was taking those duties as best as he could as a young child. I feel that these formative years of promoting shows and dealing with YouTube helped a lot for what my channel has become today, but Zach couldn't be the only wrestler. He needed a foil, and since Zach's stupid 14-year-old ass accidentally deleted the first match between he and Izzy, a competitor who had never had another on-screen appearance, let's jump to episode 2, and his true archenemy, the soul of TCW, Cody Chim. For as much as I could do to arrange the events and post the matches, it would have been nothing without Chim. And Cody didn't take TCW lightly at all. He was always down to help the company grow and reach a wider audience. As you'll see though, TCW never really panned out. So, TCW Wired, the true inaugural brawl between the two biggest rivals in company history, Zach and Chim. This is a canon event in my life if I've ever seen one. Zach got a special color guard entrance at the town park. We also have a teaser for a new wrestler, Zoe, the color guard girl here, and Chim even got a pre-match promo. The whole production is just so small and so confined, it's crazy to me how we made it work. And Cody even managed to frame the future TCW championship into the picture.
Your thoughts on being excluded from the first TCW title match?
Well, I'm okay with that.
And I remember everything about this match, man. Chim's entrance through his neighbor's yard, Zach's man bun, the fact that Cody wore school clothes to wrestle, everything just has me cracking up. And of course it's filmed on a fucking potato in vertical position. If it hasn't become obvious to you yet, the mentality of TCW was almost never planned. Everything was call it in the ring, brother. And the wins were usually earned between Chim and Zach, which meant a lot of miscommunication in the ring, and a lot of submissions. No selling was abundant, but there was occasionally a cool spot here and there that we definitely should not have been doing at that age. That mid-air shoulder block off the fence with commentary going apeshit
Oh my god!
Is burned into my memory. The whole thing is just so cute to me. We were really trying to go balls out in there. And the finishing sequence in this match isn't the best at all, but it was a building block. The most memorable thing TCW ever did was the scuffle after the bell here.
Oh! DDT on the one! On the one!
I think for TCW's age and inexperience, Zach and Chim set a nice little foundation here. So 2 days pass. Zach unveils the TCW Championship, and the subsequent show after the episode 3 will be the first ever title match. But for now, we're back with episode 3, entitled TCW Paranoia. Cody is once again interviewed in the pre-show, and his prompter is the debuting Kevin Segal. TCW is a very small crew, so Zach was the interviewer under another name. I don't understand why I didn't just invite more people to come and help the show. So, the original plan for TCW Paranoia was a triple threat match pitting every competitor we had ever seen in TCW thus far. Izzy, Zach, and Chim. And this was a classic case of show don't tell. A breaking news story dropped, as Zach had apparently attacked Izzy on his way to TCW Paranoia, now making it a one-on-one rematch from the last episode. In reality, my mom didn't want me taking Izzy to Cody's house. So everything sets up nicely, and we're here at Paranoia, the most viewed event of the early years of TCW, and it's clear to see why. Zach and Chim went out for about 13 minutes and just had a pretty violent match, if you could call Chim getting tapped in the leg with a pipe violent. One of my favorite moments in the match though was Chim hitting the flying Fila and the camera completely missing it, being distracted by a lawn chair. We then get a Star Wars lightsaber spot with 2 sticks and then a pedigree on chicken wire and wood. The fight in the pile of leaves though is pretty nostalgic for me. It takes me back to living in PA big time. The big finish is an odd scuffle that turns into a roll-up for Chim to get the W, and me being a little dickhead, I couldn't just let Cody have his moment, so Chim got attacked after the bell to see us out for our final match in Cody's yard that we ever had. But the story is just beginning. So about a month goes by, and we arrive at the coronation of the first TCW champion. The camera quality has gone up a tiny bit, and it's going to be the color guard girl from TCW Wired, Zoe, versus the guy who just lost his last match, Zach. So we're clearly at a different spot here. Well, as it turns out, my parents moved us across the country in the build to Perfect Strangers, and we've just lost all access to Cody. That will be a talking point later. Zach has completely shaved off his iconic man bun and is adorned with a Charlotte Flair t-shirt. So one super kick later and we're off and running. This match is just absolute wacky and pantomime, and they take full advantage of their new environment. I did enjoy the kind of subtle foreshadowing and the whip to the belt that Zach took early on. I do see the comedy though, in the toddler being a better cameraman than the teenager. And Zoe literally just starts monologuing in the middle of the match, and I'm rolling around laughing as I'm writing the script.
There's one thing my mom always told me, it was to never give up.
This was cinematic wrestling before it ever happened. Zoe could not just stop fucking narrating everything she could possibly be thinking.
I'm gonna win this thing.
And the big finish was both wrestlers bashing their heads simultaneously into the TCW belt. The camera completely misses the biggest spot of the match, and Zoe ends up pinning Zach to be the inaugural TCW champion. And we start a new odd direction for TCW, off and running. Does a post-match promo with her dog, and she kisses up to the booker. So now that we're firmly past the yard era and into the post-move era, we can touch on how plans were changed. So initially, TCW was planned out on paper for the first 10 events, was announcing 2 events that were both either scrapped or changed dramatically due to the relocation. Episode 9 was planned far in advance to be Chim versus Zach and Zoe in a handicap match, and the successor to the last event, Perfect Strangers, had trailers and promos dropped weeks in advance. The initial plan was the loser of the TCW Championship match versus Chim in a number 1 contenders match, and the number 1 contender going on to face Zoe, the first champion. The event was to be called Field of Fight and held in Cody's local baseball team's practice field. And we were going to have a real crowd, but of course, everything got changed and moved around. So now we only have 2 wrestlers and a show to provide. The solution was a new character. So I just put on a mask and became Carnage the Luchador. So Carnage took on Zoe for the TCW title in the last ever original TCW event. I vividly remember the ground being wet and muddy as fuck and Zoe just being super pissed about it. And the match kinda sucked. It was objectively the worst match we ever had in TCW. And it's not anybody's fault. At this point, TCW was a dead horse. Carnage wins with a splash off the playground and an absolutely miserable Zoe lying there. So 4 long years pass without a TCW event in sight. It's looking like TCW is a relic of the past. Then the unthinkable happens. Cody Chim returns. Cody trekked out into the woods back at TCW's original location and decided he wanted a match against someone he had brought up 5 years prior in a promo.
I fought this opponent, Mark, and trust me, it was gruesome and still isn't recovered, and that was last month.
So we've got TCW episode 6, Birth by Sleep. Zach even got a promo for this match to hype the boys up to go to war. And Chim and Mark did just that. This was a weapon-filled brawl that was the shortest match TCW ever had, only going 1 minute and 25 seconds. Mark picked up the win after stealing Zach's DDT, and the ball is rolling now. TCW is back. Where do we go from here? Well, we go right back to the woods for a rematch. TCW episode 7 Deathmatch was Mark vs. Chim 2. And this is pretty much more of the same, but the audience was eating it up. We still had about our average viewers, and the double stomp from Mark that he did off that tree was brutal. The rake shots looked gnarly. but Chim actually takes the W here off a mid-air soccer kick to the face. So, we've been back for a minute now. Zoe's gone, but the lingering feeling is, when are we getting back to the Zach and Chim feud? Well, 8 months pass from Deathmatch, and we get a promo from Zach out of the blue on the channel.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
That is genuinely a mark-out moment for me. Chim shows up at Zach's door to beat his ass one more time. And I feel like the scene's been set pretty well. TCW Episode 8, Matter of Time, is upon us. Once I had my own place and the money to fly Cody down to my house, I figured why not? Let's get the ball rolling again. Matter of Time was a fun little brawl, and I think the plastic bag mugging on Chim was probably the most memorable thing from this episode. Zach won this bout with his DDT that has beaten Cody every single time he's been hit with it, whether it be Zach hitting it or Mark. So about a month goes by, and we get a pre-match hype package for a Zach vs. Chim rematch. The boys do a decent job backdropping the story behind this rematch, and it's explained that it'll be a first ever escape match. In order to win, you must leave through the front door of the house. This is about as low budget as it gets, but this is TCW. We've always been low budget. This is also the first ever sequel event, TCW Wired 2. TCW Episode 9 Wired 2, the escape match, is the biggest match we ever had. This got the most views out of any TCW match ever, and the hype seemingly was not wasted. I think the whip with the t-shirt was probably the most memorable part of this one, and Cody wins with a decent tornado DDT and escapes the house. If any match had to be the most watched one from TCW, I think I'm fine with this one being it. Fast forward 2 weeks later, and we get a Cody promo. He sets the table for TCW's only ever tables match. It's TCW Episode 10, Turn the Tables, and I actually think this match is my favorite that Zach and Chim ever had. They were just laying it in and beating the shit out of each other. And it didn't go too long, and we actually didn't call it in the ring for once. Zach ends up winning with a rock bottom through the table, and I can't stop myself from telling the story about how we got that table. My landlord was a piece of shit. They said the utilities were included in my bill. They didn't mention that I didn't have gas, but I had a water heater in my bathroom. So I asked them to fix the water heater, and they put a fucking wooden wall around the water heater so I couldn't touch it. So naturally, I just ripped it out of the house and used it as a table. And here we are. What a fucking life I've lived. But things weren't all perfect living there with Chim, and he ended up moving back home, and for another 7 months, TCW was dormant. I'm just gonna let this one speak for itself.
1,515.5 miles for Cody Chim to not get his ass beat again by me. He hopped on the express flight. He was eating airline peanuts in the sky, sipping $20 water straight back to MCA because I put through a table. Well, Cody, that table might as well have been your death warrant being seized. I scratched a 7-year itch and I picked the whole damn scab off. Chim's career in TCW died the second that table broke. 7 years up and down the roads, through the alleyways, sharing cold pizzas, phone calls for hours, and it's all over with for you because you had to be the runaway. You tracked me down, and sure, you got a fluke win or two, but I was the one who ended it. I might as well have packed your bags for you, and since I'm so good at packing bags, maybe I should pack mine. Maybe I should even score. You beat me at Paranoia, you beat me a Matter of Time, you beat me at Wired 2. But I beat you at Wired, and I beat you at Turntables. I'm down by 1, but I need to put you down permanently. I'm beating your ass since I'm 14 years old. Think of it. February 2023, the flying feelers get thrown on the telephone pole, because I'm ending your career.
Do you think about me now and then? Yeah. Do you think about me now and then?
TCW Homecoming. Zach was coming back for one last match against Chim. This was our last match ever, and it was in the freezing cold woods behind the football stadium. And we decided to go out and put work in out there. I do think it's notable that Chim finally kicked out of the DDT for the first time here. Eventually though, Zach caught an awkward bulldog off the tree and beat Chim for the final time. Then, out of nowhere, Mark attacks Zach. We've never seen these two interact before, but oddly, we'll never see them interact again. This is the last thing we ever saw from TCW. And with that, I conclude on this. I feel the TCW was a labor of love from some dumb kids from broken homes, and we got too old to keep it going. You can travel back and forth across the country all you want, but after a while you just gotta leave the past in the past. I have very fond memories of TCW, and it might be the most unwatchable shit show in terms of wrestling and production, but it was our little shit show. I try not to have regrets about it, but I wish we could have ran Field of Fight sooner. Having a crowd would have blew my little brain out. I wish I would have been nicer to Zoe and Chim. I wish I would have put Chim over sooner and gave him more time to shine. I wish I would have gotten formally trained to wrestle. But here we are, and honestly, I just appreciate the time I got to spend with my friends. I wouldn't trade the memories I made for anything in the world.